so who have at least 75 credit hours or higher. So pretty much your junior and senior year, you most likely will be one of my advisees. So I'm going to share my screen real quick and we can just get started with this wonderful presentation. All right, hopefully you can see my screen all right. So pretty much just jumping into it, we're going to talk about this job search for our HSMT, which is Health Systems Management majors. A lot of you all, I think, have an idea what this major is consisted of, but I always tell students to have an open mind when it comes to this program. So health systems management is pretty much the business side of healthcare. A lot of our students are going into generalist roles or more so like specialist roles, such as like patient care access. So when it comes down to the job search, here are some things that I think you should really consider and think about. You should really dive into your inner self. Think about what kind of job excites you, what kind of career you want to do in this particular field that kind of gets you excited, makes you want to wake up every single morning and get you, rejuvenated pretty much. Another thing is too, you should really consider is the industry you want to work in. Do you want to work in a hospital? A lot of our students think that when it comes to this major, they have to work in a hospital, and that's not the case. They can work for nonprofit health organizations. They can work for corporate America. So the opportunity is kind of endless with this program. Another great thing you should really consider too when it comes down to knowing yourself and preparing for the job search is being able to market yourself appropriately. So I think a lot of times students who I connect with during my advising sessions, they don't really know how to market themselves. They're a little shy. They don't know exactly what to say. They kind of intimidated about what they should put on what should they put on their resume, what they should put on their LinkedIn account. So just be prepared about, how you should market yourself. Think about your personal strengths. Think about what you can bring to the table. So, because you got to be able to market that to the recruiters or the people that you will be interviewing with when it comes to these job interviews. So one thing that's really important is really think about your personal brand. So when it comes to any job search, you always have to submit some type of resume. So why not just start right there? Think about your resume. Think about what you have on your resume right now. Ask yourself, how is it correlating to the job that you want to go into? Figure out where the holes are at in your resume. If you're looking at your resume, thinking like, okay, I really want to go into, say, like human resources at a hospital. Do you have any human resources experience on your resume? If you feel like you don't have that human resources experience, then find some opportunities that you can get that experience on your resume, so that way you can be a little bit more marketable when it comes to applying for jobs. Keep in mind too, a lot of professional organizations, when it comes to these jobs or these nonprofit organizations, they take a couple seconds to look at the resume. So you want to make sure the resume is pretty clear, it's pretty easy to read, and make sure you utilize some keywords that really capture their attention. So do you think your resume is a good impression? If not, that's okay. We have wonderful resources on campus that can really help you build your resume to make it look 10 times better. So here's some few resume tips. Once again, a lot of employers, they take a few seconds just to look at your resume. So they don't spend hours looking at it just because they have so many applications to go through. So you want to make sure it's very easy and very straight to the point. So here's some things you want to think about when it comes to writing your resume. Make sure your font is a good reasonable size. So about 10 to 12 point font when it comes to it. Make sure your margins are pretty good as well too. Sometimes students, their margins are a little off and it makes it a little hard for employers to read your resume. Keep your resume at least one page. There are some few exceptions when it comes to that, but just ideally you want to keep it to one page. Make sure that you are listing your experience in reverse chronological order. So talk about your most recent experience and start going backwards a little bit. So right now, say for instance, if I'm a student right now in this program, if I'm applying for like an internship, I'll talk about what I did recently back in the fall semester that relates to the internship that I'm applying for, and you just kind of go backwards like that. You want to remain consistent, so you don't want to kind of jump around anywhere. So if you want to talk about kind of how you see on this example right here on the screen, you want to talk about something that's related to that particular position, might want to put that at the top part of your resume. But if you want to talk about other things that might correlate with that particular position, but it's not exactly directly related to it, you might want to add it to additional experience that they have right here on this sample. Use action words. Those are some keywords that really capture a lot of these employers' attention when it comes to reading what you have on your resume. And always try to proofread. That's really key. I think a lot of students, they try to hurry up and get their resumes uploaded to their applications, and sometimes they forget to actually proofread. So make sure you proofread it. Make sure you get one of your friends to proofread it, or make sure you ask one of their professors or an advisor such as myself, or maybe a career coach to actually proofread it to make sure everything looks good on your resume. This is really key. So I always tell my students in the program, it's really important to network. So health systems management is pretty broad. You can go into many different sectors. And I always tell students, you really want to figure out what area of health system management really captures your attention, really excites you. So it's really important for you to network with people that works in a similar atmosphere that you're trying to go into. So going back to what I mentioned before, if working in a hospital is something that you want to do, network with the people that works in hospitals. So if you don't have a job in a hospital right now, that's perfectly fine. You can always get your foot in the door at a hospital by maybe volunteering or something like that. If you're somebody that's more on the techie side, we also have people in this major that's going towards like data analysts for healthcare consultant companies. Make sure you kind of get some internship opportunities or maybe network with people that was working on the health IT side of things. So that way you kind of get your foot in the door when it comes to opportunities. A lot of jobs actually can be found on LinkedIn. A lot of students feel that LinkedIn can be overwhelming, but I think you have to just take your time with it and try to figure out what are the different resources they have available on LinkedIn. For instance, as you see on this screen right here, that you can actually find alumni from USC Charlotte who is living in the area, or say like you're trying to maybe go to another city or another state, maybe another country, you can find alumni that lives in that area. And you can also find alumni that had that same major that you're majoring in, such as health systems management, that live in a certain area. And if that's the case, if you find those people, connect with them on LinkedIn, send them a nice little message, be like, hey, I see that you're a 49er. I'm a 49er as well. Would like to link up with you. I see that you was a health systems management um, major, or you got your degree in health systems management, and that's what I'm getting my degree in. And I just like to learn a little bit more about how I can market myself when it comes to jobs and stuff like that. So where to look? I always get this question a lot. Like, where can I look for jobs? A lot of students think that they can just go to Indeed and just think that they can just type in health systems management, job opportunities in the city of Charlotte, but that's not the only case. There are many job opportunities that you can, or job resources you can look into when it comes to finding jobs. So UNC Charlotte, the Career Center has a wonderful job site called Hire Niner. I'm pretty sure some of you all are pretty familiar with this. They include on-campus employment as well as off-campus employment job opportunities, but it also lists out full-time job opportunities as well and internships too. So it's pretty easy to navigate. Once you type in Hire Niner in your My Charlotte account in the search engine, just type in Hire Niner, it will pop up. You will click on that link, and then you'll see different things such as featured jobs. And if you want to look at those featured jobs, you can kind of view all jobs. And then what's really great about Hire Niner is you can really kind of filter out the job opportunities. So if you really want to go into health management, you can narrow down your search to health management, and that way it can give you some type of job opportunities that's related to health management, whether those be internships or full-time job opportunities or even part-time job opportunities, either that's on campus or off campus. Going back to LinkedIn is definitely that key tool that I tell students to really utilize when it comes to their senior year and when it comes to applying for jobs. Definitely start utilizing LinkedIn before your senior year. Kind of, once again, brand yourself a little bit. Definitely start building your connections on LinkedIn, just because you'll be able to learn more about the career field in that aspect. LinkedIn, if you're not too familiar with it, here's kind of a brief overview. It's pretty much just a social network for business professionals, kind of like your Instagram, or kind of like your Facebook. Y'all probably don't use Facebook that much anymore, but that's pretty much the idea of what LinkedIn is. It's that social media for business professionals. Definitely, it's a great way for you to market your resume on LinkedIn. And so if you have a resume, you like to kind of market yourself a little bit, you can upload your resume. And whenever somebody goes to your profile, they want to know more about you. They say like, hey, I see this person right here is majoring in health systems management. Let me see their background a little bit. And they can click on your resume on there. Or if they don't have that much time to look at your resume, you can also list out your job history on your LinkedIn account too. So that way you kind of give like a brief overview of what you've been doing over the years. Really kind of cultivate your connections with different individuals that might have the same interests as you or might have the same goals as you. And then it can definitely bring different new employment opportunities in LinkedIn. So One thing for me, I know when I was graduating from undergrad, I had an idea of what area I want to go into when it came to my career field, and I made sure I got job alerts from LinkedIn that related to my career field. So you can kind of filter that in your settings in your LinkedIn account. And if you have trouble accessing or kind of revamping your LinkedIn account, you can always utilize the resources in the Career Center. Have some wonderful individuals in there that can help you kind of revamp your LinkedIn account to make it look appropriate and make sure that everything on there is kind of nice and neat. And if say like you don't have a professional headshot, the University Career Center also provides professional headshots for free for students. Here's some other little aspects that are kind of unique when it comes to LinkedIn. So I tell students when it comes to just trying to get involved a little bit with health systems management in that particular field, I tell them try to look at associations that are related to the health systems management field. So you kind of see some of my students that kind of follow different healthcare administration organizations throughout the nation, and just so they can learn about different updates that's happening within the health admin field. If you're somebody that is interested in like health information specialists, they have organizations that focus on that. Going back to what I mentioned before, they also have alumni listed all throughout LinkedIn too. So you can kind of, if you're maybe moving to another area whenever you graduate from UC Charlotte and you're trying to figure out, hey, where can I, what can I do in this new city, in this new environment? Before you even move to that new city, you can actually go on your LinkedIn account and figure out, do I have any alumni that lives in this particular area? And if so, let me see if I can connect with them so that way they can let me know what kind of job opportunities they have in that area or in that city. And as I mentioned before, you can get job alerts too when it comes to LinkedIn. Now, LinkedIn is definitely not the only place to find job opportunities. There are other areas you can find job opportunities too. It's kind of hidden a little bit, I would say. So I always tell students definitely it can be overwhelming, but go to job sites. So go to company websites to look at the jobs that they have placed on their website. It can be time consuming a little bit, I'm not gonna lie, but just, dedicate some time every single week, just trying to look at different job websites just to see what they have available when it comes to job opportunities or internships. Get involved with professional organizations. That kind of goes back to that networking aspect of it. So definitely you want to make sure that you can maybe try to join some type of professional organization that's related to your specific career field. So that way you can be able to build your networking circle. UNC Charlotte has a wonderful health systems management student organization. They have different panels throughout the academic year for students so that way they can just learn from professionals in the field. And that's another great way to network too. Government agencies. So looking at, say, like if you want to stay in the state of North Carolina, you can look at the state of North Carolina job sites and just see what's available for you when it comes to related job organizations related to health systems management. And then, of course, UNC Charlotte always organizes career fairs every single semester. So that way that you be able to kind of meet with recruiters and be able to connect with them and kind of market yourselves a little bit. Some other fun tips when it comes for the job search, definitely try to volunteer. A lot of times college students, they kind of get discouraged whenever they apply for maybe a part-time job or a full-time job and they really say like they want to work at a hospital and they don't get that job at the hospital. They get discouraged and they're just like, man, I don't want to, I just gotta maybe switch my career plans because I couldn't get that job at the hospital. Don't think like that. Maybe, you didn't get that job because you didn't have enough experience. That's perfectly fine. One way you can get more experience is maybe volunteering with the organization. Volunteering with organizations allows you to get your name out there, allows you to meet with people that work with people that works within the organization, and they can soon become personal references for you later on in life. So like if you're a junior right now, you want to volunteer at Atrium Health, you can do that. And then maybe by the time you are about to graduate, you see a job at Atrium Health that you really like, you can connect with the people that you've been volunteering with and see if they can be a reference for you just because, they might have some upper advantage for you when it comes to being your reference point. As I mentioned before, getting involved with professional associations will be really beneficial for you. If you're not too familiar with when it comes to professional organizations that's related to health systems management, that's perfectly fine. That's what your professors are there for. And they are really involved. They do a lot of research that's related to health systems management. So bother them, they're there to support you during your time at UNC Charlotte. So make sure you connect with them and let them know like, hey, I'm trying to figure out what kind of organization would be most beneficial for me if I'm trying to go into health analytics, and they can give you some organizations that you should really check out. And definitely just connect with some of your peers. Your peers might know more than you might, which is perfectly fine. You want to kind of learn from the people that you're surrounded by. So just learn from your peers. And if you hear your peers have some type of internship or some type of part-time job with the organization that you like, you can be like, hey, do you know if they're hiring? Or hey, how'd you get your foot in the door with this particular organization? And do you think you'd be able to help me get some connections there? And definitely try to get involved. So you don't have to get involved directly with the health system student organization that's housed within the health system management program, but you can get involved with other student organizations on campus too. I know there's business professional organizations on campus as well as social organizations too that you can find some great connections within. This is really important, I would say, just because I know this generation, we really are big on social media and stuff like that. So you want to be careful how you market yourself on your social media accounts. Definitely a lot of employers, when they bring applicants in or they invite students in for interviews, sometimes they actually go to their social media accounts just to see, okay, this person was really great in front of my face, but let's see how they are when they are away from their professional setting, I would say. So whenever they are in their social life with their friends and family, let's see how are they the same person? Are they a brand new person? So definitely want to make sure your social media accounts are professional and, managed well. So here's just some things that you just should really consider. Definitely, sometimes you got to be careful that airing out complaints about current jobs or past jobs could be a big no-no for you. So I know a lot of times students, at least the students I've talked to, they utilize Rate My Professor nowadays when it comes to figure out who professors are great and who professors are not. A lot of students sometimes do that with their current jobs. They'd be like, okay, I don't like this job right here because they didn't give me enough hours, or the supervisors at this current job didn't really, match my school schedule, even though I gave them my school schedule at the beginning of the semester. You don't want to do too many complaints, or you don't want to do complaints at all, really, when it comes to your past or current job, just because it can come back to haunt you in some way, shape, or form. Just being negative too on social media could have a huge impact on if you're being hired or not, just because pretty much your social media is kind of connected to you or is connected to you. So it represents you in a different atmosphere. So you want to make sure that how you represent yourself on social media is gonna help you, not hurt you. Here's like a brief overview of just, some typical job responsibilities that you might see that's related to this particular major. This is just an overview. This is just like a snapshot there. When it comes to health system management, as I mentioned before, it's very broad. There's so many different things that you can go into with this major, but typically a lot of our students who graduate from this program, they're going to jobs that have this type of job responsibilities right here. So definitely setting up budgets and managing organization finances, or ensuring that the facility is working and is up to date for their patients or for their customers. Communicating with clinicians or other staff, just making sure that health insurance agencies is doing their part to make sure that their patients are getting the appropriate care that they need. Some ideas that you can look into, or some just suggestions that you can look into when it comes to job opportunities or organizations, is just maybe looking in nursing homes for job opportunities, or physical therapist offices, hospitals, clinics, as I mentioned before, government agencies. And as you see at the bottom, you see kind of two different lists that let you know, like, if you don't have too much experience when it comes to this field, here's some ideal job titles that you might want to kind of consider searching for, such as healthcare advocate, project coordinator, or a medical office coordinator. If you have more experience, say like you are working full time right now, getting this degree, or working part time, getting this degree right now, and you have a little bit more professional experience, that's perfectly fine. You could then start looking for, jobs that relate to healthcare consulting, or medical office manager, or insurance contract negotiator, or analyst positions. That's if you have a little bit more experience, more so on the analyst side. But these are just a very brief list. The list can go on, and if you have more questions about that, just let us know, and we'd be happy to kind of guide you into the right direction. I feel like I've showed this to some of my students before, but if you haven't been familiar with this page, you can find this page on what I can do with a major in. And so this is a very useful page right here that I always direct my students towards, just because they are, kind of confused about what they can get into when it comes to this major. So on this page, you see some sample occupation titles. So once again, when it's time for you to go searching for internships or job opportunities, you can type in these titles right here just to see what kind of organizations are looking for positions that relate to these titles. And down towards the bottom, you see some employers too that will be ideal for you to kind of look into. So definitely, I tell students to keep an open mind, even though that your major has health systems management as the title. You can also look at other industries too, like financial industries or different IT industries. Just because it's not health related doesn't mean you can't go into it with this major. Here's some fun keywords you can also type into when it comes to job searching for jobs, or when it comes to job searching for positions related to this degree. So if you're somebody that is more so people facing, you really want to help out the community, and you're more so community oriented when it comes to health issues, you might want to be like a healthcare advocate or a project coordinator. If you're someone that is kind of somebody that's not really a people person, you more so into like IT, you might want to look into health information specialists, or more so like healthcare insurance policy or compliance or billing. But these are just some examples that you can consider when it comes to just job searching, job searches. And then when it comes to definitely companies to check out, I mean, this is just a small list. The list can go on for days, but a lot of our students that have graduated recently, they have worked for insurance companies such as like Aetna or Blue Cross and Blue Shield, or United Healthcare. A lot of our students are finding jobs in Novant Health or HRM. Students that are more so on the data side, who are looking like into data analytics or health informatics, they are looking at jobs with Epic or with Centa or with Premier. And then those who are kind of more so on the human resources side, they are kind of flocking towards FlexCare, which is a nice, good health consulting company that always are looking for recruiters for their company to, recruit different clients. Before this presentation even started, I kind of did some active job searching a little bit on the Hire Niner page, and I came across some of these job titles. So if you go to Hire Niner, as I mentioned before, you can find some of these jobs listed on the Hire Niner page. Don't just put all your pennies in one basket. Don't just keep yourself restricted to Hire Niner. Look at other job sites too, such as LinkedIn. But also, I know that Google has a wonderful job search engine as well. So you can just type in Google search engine or job search engine, and you can kind of look at some jobs that are around the local area, and you kind of filter a little bit too about if you want to have remote or if you want to have it in a certain area. So like if you're not going to be in the area for the summertime in Charlotte and you want an internship, you might want to kind of adjust your area a little bit to where you will be housed at during the summertime. But quality manager, that's something that's related to Epic. So that's more so like the data side. That people facing type of job position, that's what HM Health, you can see, is that patient account specialist. When it comes to that flex care medical staffing company, as I mentioned before, they're looking for healthcare recruiters or office coordinators. There's a few nonprofit organizations such as the North Carolina Community Health Center Association. They're looking for care coordinators. And then there's, as you can see right there at the bottom too, you have another one that's kind of like a nonprofit as well. They're looking for guest relations when it comes to their company. And these right here you can find on Hire Niner, but like I said, don't, be open-minded. Look at other search engines too when it comes to finding jobs. Some big mistakes, or I guess you could say most frequently common mistakes that I've seen with students when it comes to finding for searching for jobs, is sometimes they just kind of give up pretty easily. They think that, okay, I apply for 5 jobs and all of them tell me no. I just want to give up and just kind of, focus on something else. And that should not be the case right there. You're gonna get a lot of no's, but let these no's be motivation for you to figure out like, okay, let me see why I gotta know. Sometimes if you don't get the job, depending on the organization, you might can reach back out to the person that you had an interview with and be like, hey, I really wanted this job. It was unfortunate for me to not get this job, but what are some things I can work on? Or what are some skills I can gain that will make me more competitive for this job in the future? So that's something that you should really consider when it comes to some of the no's you might get from jobs that you recently applied to, or that you might be applying to right now. don't have a negative perspective on it. So the job search is very draining. So it might be sometimes you might find a lot of jobs, you might not find a lot at all, but don't have a negative attitude towards it. You gotta remain optimistic when it comes to this job search. It's every job opportunity, you're gonna have to put a lot of time and energy towards it. So you have to really make sure that you are dedicated to finding that real job, that good job that's most beneficial towards you and your goals. Sending out materials with mistakes or errors. That's going back to that resume. Make sure you proofread it. Make sure everything on your resume is looking accurate and up to date, such as like your dates of when you worked at a specific company. Some jobs might require you to write cover letters. You want to make sure that the information on your cover letter is correct. You also want to make sure that the cover letter that you're submitting with your application is for the correct company too. You don't want to have the wrong company on the cover letter for an application. That's kind of a big mistake right there that students should definitely avoid. Thinking one lead is enough. So when you get that first interview and you're like, all right, I got me a first interview already set in stone next week, I'm gonna stop right here. Don't stop. Keep applying for jobs. Definitely it's good that you got that interview, but keep that gas going. Keep going with all that, with applying for jobs, because if you put all your pennies in one basket, you might feel like, all right, I got this one interview coming up in my future or coming up next week. And I feel like I have a good chance of getting it, and there's a good chance that you might not get it. And you'd be like, man, I could have spent more time last week applying for jobs. But don't just put everything in one basket. Make sure you try to, think proactively and try to figure out like, okay, what else can I apply to while I'm waiting for this other internship or what other interview that's coming up. Not taking interviews seriously. So a lot of times students feel like interviews can just be very informal, which I feel like that's a bad perspective to have going into an interview. You want to make sure that you are prepared for the interview as well. So you might want to do some research about the organization that you're interviewing with, to make sure you kind of have an idea what the organization mission's about or values are about. So that way you can kind of talk about that. You kind of talk about how your skills relate to their vision a little bit. If you need help when it comes to preparing for interviews, once again, as I mentioned before, you got the University Career Center that can always help you prepare for that. You can also talk to your professors too. You got professors who are willing to help you if you let them know, like, I'm preparing for an interview, they'd be happy to have you come to their office hours to sit down with them, and they can ask you some questions that they think will be beneficial for you to know when it comes to your interview. And going back to what I discussed a little bit before is just, don't limit yourself to just health related organizations. I have students who are looking at pharmaceutical organizations or looking at financial organizations when it comes to job opportunities. For instance, we have some students that are doing internships this upcoming summer with a financial group, but they are more so working more on the health consulting side of that financial group. So they're working with their clients on healthcare insurance, making sure their clients have the appropriate healthcare insurance. Even though it's a financial group, doesn't have nothing to do with health in the title of the actual organization. They have an actual department that focus on healthcare consulting. So definitely when it comes to looking at organizations, kind of read a little bit in between the lines to figure out, okay, let me check out the different departments within this organization to see if any of these departments tie back to my major. And so last minute reminders, or final reminders, I should say, is to start the process early when it comes to applying for jobs. It's very tedious and it takes time depending on the organization. If it's a big organization, it might take a little bit longer than the smaller organizations, but it could be anywhere from 6 to 9 months when it comes to applying for jobs and actually, accepting a job offer. So it's a very, very time consuming a little bit. Here's like a nice little time frame for you all. For those who are graduating in December, they should maybe start looking for jobs around September or October, or maybe before, maybe even August, depending on what type of organization you're applying for. And those that's graduating in May, they should start in January or February, or maybe even sooner too. Be active. Think ahead. Think about your goals in life. So once again, network, but think about, okay, who I should be networking with. If you have an idea of what area you want to go into, make sure you start networking with those people that work in that area. Start getting involved with associations that are related to that area that you want to go into. once again, start getting closer to your professors because they have a lot of connections out here in this real world. So they can connect you with their peers and with their colleagues, and be positive too. So once again, this job searches is very draining sometimes, could be very stressful, and sometimes you might hear many no's before you get that one yes. So if that's the case, don't let it don't let it beat you up. Remain positive, take it one step at a time. That's kind of going back to the first little checkpoint you see. Start early, so that way you're not trying to apply for 20 jobs your last month of undergrad, and you're trying to figure out, okay, one of these 20 jobs is going to accept me, and then all of them may say no, and you just be like, okay, I've graduated and I don't have no job. I don't have no job waiting for me. But don't let that stress you out. Don't let that beat you up. Start early, and then remain positive and just be active when it comes to um, moving forward with this job search process related to this field. And this is the end of my presentation right here. So if you have any questions or concerns, comments, feel free to share if you want to. This particular presentation or this conversation, I like it to be a little bit informal. So go ahead and, tell me what you are curious about when it comes to this actual major or when it comes to this actual field. And yeah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Jalen. Feel free to put your questions in the chat. But what I do want to say is Jalen talked a lot about networking. On Friday, we are taking a group of students to FlexCare. Brandy has so graceful. Thank you so much, Brandy, for putting that in the chat. Please look at that link. We still have room available, and they do have positions, as Jalen said, available. So anyone graduating or wanting to look for a job, that's an opportunity to network, as you will be in front of them on Friday. So utilize that as a resource. But Jalen, I have a question for you.
Yes, ma'am.
So considering you are the advisor and working with students that land in the HSMT major, a lot of them don't start off wanting to be in the HSMT, right? They have other things and they fall into that realm. What piece of advice would you give to someone who found themselves in HSMT for various reasons, whether they didn't get in a nursing program or whatever happened during their time here? What advice would you give to those students who are just like really confused and know little about the major, but it's like, you should get this degree because of the things that have happened? Or still wanting to work in healthcare, essentially?
Yeah. Oh, so that's a good question. So I have had my conversation with a lot of students who were exercise science, for instance, or were nursing, and they started the program, they did not like it, or they did not get admitted to upper division for nursing, for instance, and they decided to, let me switch over to health systems management because it's still related to healthcare. So the first question I do ask, I always talk to them just like, is nursing a passion of yours? If so, then let's talk about your next steps of how to become a nurse. But a lot of times, a lot of them be like, okay, I thought I wanted to do that, but I don't want to do it no more. And then that's when I kind of get into the nitty gritty a little bit about health systems management and what that looks like when it comes to job opportunities, etc. So I always tell students to really take their time to really understand what they can do with this major. A lot of times students kind of get, I won't say distracted, but I guess I'm gonna use distracted a little bit. But a lot of times the programs or the courses may be offered online, and they feel like they don't really have that good connection with their professors. So I always tell students that even though your course is offered online, you can still be right there in your professor's office hours to get that connections with them, so that you can understand a little bit better what you can do with this degree. So I tell them not to just think that this program is just something that should just be put on a resume and should be just ignored. They should really utilize the services that the program comes along with it, such as like the resources that I've mentioned throughout the presentation. But um, it, it's a great program. A lot of students, they end up going into the healthcare administration side and they realize like, okay, I think the business side is a little bit better for me rather than the patient side, just because a lot of times students realize like, okay, the patient care is a little too much for me. I don't like dealing with bodily fluids, and I don't think that's my mindset is prepared for that. So this being on the business side of things is a little bit more beneficial for me. So and a lot of times I would say too, a lot of students don't realize that until like their junior and senior year, when they get into more so the upper division, upper level courses, when they start getting to more of the specific courses that focus on organization management or like health policy. And that's when they kind of get that epiphany moment and be like, oh, okay, what we talked about last week, this is for sure what I want to do right here. So just, just stay focused with the degree, and definitely just utilize the resources that's here on campus, like myself or professors or the career center. Just because you thought one program was a program for you and you end up, switching over to health systems management, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. Use that as an opportunity to really learn more about yourself. Figure out, what's something that really gets you excited with, how can you see yourself in this field, and just kind of move forward from there. Thank you for that question.
Any other questions for Jalen? Y'all are a quiet bunch.
Right. It could be any question too. Any questions, don't be shy.
Okay, well, I guess.
All right.
Well, thank you so much for your time, Jalen. Thank you all for joining. This will be available on our YouTube channel if you want to go back and share it with your friends or rewatch it. Thank you so much. Have a good day, everyone.
Thank you all. Take care.